Alright, guys, so obviously the Batman Part 2 is something that all, or at least most DC fans are so excited for. I know I personally am. I mean, that first movie was just so good. And I'm so excited for the future of this universe because we know it's not just going to be a trilogy. This is an entire universe that Matt Reeves is developing with his Batman and with his Gotham City. I mean, we got the Batman 2 in development, of course, the sequel to the Batman, which we got last year, but we're also getting the Penguin on Max. That'll be coming out next year, and the Arkham Asylum series on Max as well. But there's also some other projects that are in development. And, one of my favorite things about Batman is his villains. Villains are one of my favorite parts of comic book history, I guess you could say, in the world. And Batman and Spider-Man are the two heroes that have the best rogues galleries. And so it's not a surprise as to why Sony is making all these villain solo movies and we're getting Venom and Craven and Morbius and all this stuff, and why Batman is now getting the same treatment. We have a Joker movie, which is getting a sequel, and now we are going to be getting spin offs from the Batman universe focusing on these villains because these are characters that you can tell their own story without Batman even being there. And I mean, Batman can be involved in the story, but these are characters that specifically it works better with Batman than it does with Spider-Man because, especially like you look at what they've done there, and a lot of those characters they're trying to turn into anti-heroes. But Batman, as long as they keep the focus on how brutally messed up and insane these characters are, it can work. It can work really, really well. That's why we're getting our Penguin HBO Max series because that's going to give us the opportunity to dive into the world of Colin Farrell's Oswald Cobblepot and get to know him and get to see his rise to power before we see him again in either the Batman Part 2 or the Batman Part 3, wherever it may be, but just setting him up in a way that we wouldn't have time for if you tried to do that in a Batman movie. And obviously, in the Batman Part 2, there's a whole bunch of villains who are rumored for this film. Clayface, Hush, Mr. Freeze. There's a whole bunch that we don't know what's going on with this film yet. But again, like I said, we do know we're getting spin-offs that will develop the villains that won't be focused on in the main Batman films. And now it is being said that we are going to be getting a Scarecrow solo film from Matt Reeves' Batman universe. Daniel RPK, of course, frequent scooper we talk about here, just put out this news that yes, Matt Reeves is developing a Scarecrow movie. It'll be set within this universe. And this should not be a surprise. I mean, we actually already knew about this. I've made multiple videos on the channel before. There was over a year ago a report from the Hollywood Reporter, which of course the Hollywood Reporter is one of the trades. So when they put out news, it's official news that's coming from the studio and everything. And they said that alongside the Batman Part 2, that Matt Reeves is developing multiple villain solo movies that will be spin-offs. Then specifically mentioned was Scarecrow alongside Professor Pig and Clayface. Now, obviously, this is over a year ago. Plans can change. Sounds like the Clayface plans have changed at least, specifically, because it sounds like Clayface is going to be playing a big part in the Batman Part 2. For all we know, they could also be doing a solo movie, but I feel like they'll focus on him in the movie for the Batman. But Scarecrow, I think, makes a lot of sense as a character to do a solo movie about. Jonathan Crane is such an interesting character. And again, if you do it and take an approach like you did with Joker, where you really focus on the mental health aspect, especially in today's society, like mental health is such a big thing we need to be discussing. And to tell a story like this, a kid who grows up surrounded by fear in his life, diving into the science world, and then eventually developing this darker tendency towards fear and wanting to induce fear in others and developing fear talks and becoming the Scarecrow, this symbol of fear. That could be a great story. And you could, again, we don't know how this is going to be played out, but you could feature the Batman in these stories. And it could be something where it would maybe even be like a Batman movie, take a different approach from what they've done over at Sony with the Spider-Man character. Instead of trying to do Kraven the Hunter or Venom or Morbius without Spider-Man, you can still do these characters with Batman there, but just do it in a way where maybe Scarecrow, Jonathan Crane, is the main character of the film, and then the Batman is just there as a supporting character, and maybe doesn't even show up until the end and is kind of the quote unquote villain of the movie. That would be interesting. And of course, again, I think this is a great idea because it's just expanding the universe. Again, things you don't have time to do, characters you don't have time to fully develop and dive into in these Batman movies, where you're already stuffing a whole lot of elements into these films. Shine the spotlight on these characters in their own projects, and I think that is a fantastic idea. And again, Jonathan Crane, the Scarecrow, one of my favorite Batman villains, so what a great character to try and do this type of project with. And also, you may already have a casting here. I mean, obviously there's some great casting ideas for Scarecrow. There's a bunch of many actors who are talented enough to take on this role, but Jay McCampbell Bower, who, of course, probably best known for his role as Vecna in Stranger Things Season 4, he has come out and said officially that he wants to play the Scarecrow in Matt Reeves' The Batman universe. I made a video about that last year as well. And yeah, if he wants to play Scarecrow, let him play Scarecrow. That would be so cool. But guys, a Scarecrow movie is in development, and it's going to be a part of the Matt Reeves Batman universe, and we could see Scarecrow fighting off against Robert Pattinson's Batman one day sooner than we thought. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so keep up to date on everything that goes on in the DC life.